Hello and welcome to JMU Journalism TV. The headlines this Tuesday lunchtime. Flood defences are being set up across the region to prevent further damage if river levels continue to rise. More people across the northwest are using butchers following the scare involving horse meat. And hundreds of people descend on Liverpool for the city's International Jazz Festival. But first, it might be no surprise to hear that last year was the wettest here in the northwest in a century. Thousands of homes and businesses were destroyed by the floods that swept the region. Now flood defences are being set up to limit the damage that will be caused if river levels continue to rise. Nicole Addy reports.
2012 was the wettest year in the northwest in more than 100 years. Floods plagued the region, destroying homes and businesses overnight. Salford City Council has been awarded nearly £32 million to construct and maintain flood defences to protect more than 6,000 homes.
I looked out, the water level was here outside, so the water had risen up in the garden to this level and the water was coming in and lashing all around the dining room. They had to send a boat down, people had to be rescued further down, they were in the boats. A lot of their ground floors were completely ruined, electrical, they've had to have rewiring. My insurance is going to be different from now on, and if we wanted to sell the property it'd be like a flood risk area when it's not really.
This year the government has allocated additional funding for constructing new flood defences, an extra £60 million from what they call the Growth Fund, and another £60 million to bring forward schemes that are already in the pipeline. And the North West has been the big winner in that, securing about a third of all the money that was available. So we're creating another flood basin in this area, so that when the water comes over, it stays there rather than floods all this area. This can involve building physical walls, which is what we'll be doing on the coast to prevent some coastal flooding. But it can also be things like creating a basin, a flood basin.
It's set to start mid-March, ready for any potential floods that may come in 2013.
Plans to rebuild Liverpool's Royal Hospital will provide better medical care for thousands of jobs in the city. The new hospital should be ready within 3 years. Maya Rigo reports.
After the months of delays and hurdles, plans to rebuild a brand new Royal Hospital next to the old Royal Hospital can finally be seen as turning into real after the health ministers have agreed on the plans. Before the hospital can take another step forward and appoint a contractor to start work on the £450 million project, it must clear two obstacles.
The hospital was built in the 1970s. It's now in a very bad state. There have been a lot of appraisals of the building and it's been found necessary to have a new hospital. I think this is an excellent idea. I welcome the commitment for a new hospital, but I do want to see it getting the go-ahead. The rebuild is a replacement for the existing hospital on the same site. And next to that, there's going to be a new building, a new biomedical centre, which will help to establish Liverpool as a very important centre for research. So both of those things are equally important.
Well, we need a new Royal because the current Royal just isn't fit for purpose. It's 30 years old, it's quite outdated at the moment, it's not based on the clinical needs. So we need to have a new state-of-the-art hospital to respond to the way that medicine has changed in the last 30 years and to look at some of the new needs for the city.
To rebuild a new Royal Hospital was put back in December last year, as a government official needed clarified to the plan for further examination. Plans to rebuild the hospital have raised another issue of cutting down 600 jobs could be at risk, but the hospital has stressed that the cost-cutting step should not be linked to the rebuild.
Local butchers have seen an increase of sales of meat over the last week. Buyers are taking caution and relying on locally sourced produce rather than shipped-in supermarket goods. This comes after traces of horse meat was found in pre-packaged supermarket beef products. O. Patel reports.
As more shocking discoveries are made into the horse meat scandal, British consumers are now said to be too scared to buy meat products from supermarkets and are putting more trust into their local butchers.
There's been a lot of new customers coming in. Obviously, there's been a lot of lack of confidence in the meat trade itself. So basically, I find that they're coming back to us because we're a lot more knowledgeable about what we're selling, and I mean, it's a bit confusing really, because with legislation you're actually meant to have traceability of every product that you sell anyway. We have to do it by law, and basically I think people have just lost a lot of confidence in the supermarkets and other places basically because, well, basically been lied to a little bit, haven't they, you know, so. I mean, it's beneficial for us because we've had a problem being competitive with the supermarkets because of the price-orientated products. But obviously the only reason why they've been able to do cheaper products is because they've been using not the right products or inferior products. You know, it's an old saying really, you basically get what you pay for, and that's basically what's happening in the meat trade now. There is definitely an influx or an increase everywhere else because there's a shortage. We're finding it's hard to get all the products today already.
Since horse meat was first identified in Irish beef burgers, no one has yet to be reported to have fallen ill. But many supermarkets and fast food chains are struggling to save their reputations. More than 60% of adults surveyed said that they would now buy meat from their local butchers, and a quarter of adults said that they would now buy joints, chops or steaks instead of processed meats. But with the inflation running above central bank targets and an uncertain job market, the spending power of British consumers has been tough in recent years, and for some, buying more expensive meat is just not an option.
And in other news around the world this lunchtime, Kenyans have turned out in their millions to vote in the country's general election. It is described as the country's most important in history. Early results show that Kenyatta is in the lead with 55% of the vote. In Britain, the government have pushed through plans for secret court hearings. New laws mean trials can now be hidden from the public and suspects can be convicted on evidence they are never allowed to see. These plans receive strong endorsement from a Labour Home Secretary, while Tory rebels warn that proposals deny open justice. The daughter of a Liverpool fan who died at Hillsborough in 1989 has launched an appeal to find two men who helped carry her father out of the pitch. Claire McGlone was 2 when her father, Alan, died in the disaster. A 23-year-old man was shot in the leg after he and his brother were approached by a gang in Old Swan. The man from Walton was taken to the Royal Liverpool Hospital. His injuries were said not to be life-threatening. Meanwhile, many retailers are struggling to survive because of lack of trade. With the increased number of franchises like Currys, JJB Sports and Republic going into administration, what is the future for our towns? Marta Miles went to Birkenhead Town Centre to find out.
Birkenhead is one of many English towns struggling in the tough economic climate. 2012 was the worst year since 2008, with more than 4,000 stores and 54 retailers affected. The reasons include a second economic downturn causing quick sales and the failure of retailer giants.
Well, Birkenhead now, most of the shops have shut down since the internet online. It's pretty much a ghost town now. It's not as great as it used to be years ago.
So we have now seen some changes in Birkenhead over the last few years. No, I would say negative, to be honest. I mean, I've lived around here now for over 20 years, and I've seen a fair few changes in that time. But what we seem to have here now is a lot of cheap shops, pound shops, and charity shops. Now, obviously, those shops wouldn't necessarily exist in the area unless there was a need for them. You know, which just goes to show that there's not a lot of money around, not a lot of work, not a lot of money.
Not very good. No, more shops shut than there are open. No, don't even know why I'm here really.
Don't think it's very good because you've only got Liverpool across the way, so most of the shops here are sort of shut down and there's not really a lot of variety. The experience isn't really that great. It's more Poundlands and Home Bargains and stuff like that, but Liverpool's much better, so I'd rather just get on the train and go over there.
But Birkenhead has not had a full-time town centre manager for more than 5 years now.
Swimming groups and that type of thing, theatres. Birkenhead, we're very lucky, we have a theatre in the town, we have a cinema and we have a swimming pool, but we need really to coordinate the activities and bring people back into the town centres for multi-use rather than just retail.
Birkenhead's unemployment rate stands at 8.6%. This is nearly the double of the national average, according to National Office for Statistics. Traders said the loss of HMV would be another blow for Birkenhead, with about 25 jobs going.
And that clips into there.
But initiatives like Wirral Waters will boost Birkenhead's deteriorating economy.
The town of New Ferry on the Wirral has received £10,000 of government funding to kickstart action for new redevelopment. The area has been hit hard by recession, but local MP Alison McGovern is optimistic about the future. With a population of 5,300 people, New Ferry is a small town located on the Wirral, just east of Bebington. Unfortunately, this town has fallen on hard times. Luckily, it has just received a sum of £10,000 to kickstart plans for the regeneration of its town centre.
Because of the recession, New Ferry has seen difficult times, we've had shops closing, and I've wanted to get a project together to try and help New Ferry for some time. We bid for various things, didn't come off, and finally we've got this relatively modest amount of money to do a bit of seed corn work to try and get a plan together to work out what New Ferry can be in the future and how we can make sure it's got a sustainable future that really works. Lots of people in Bebington and Port Sunlight and New Ferry itself feel that the New Ferry town centre has declined quite rapidly. It's been an area that's seen some difficulties over recent years, but things have got especially bad recently. This is due to, people changing their shopping habits as well. More people buying things online and having them delivered than popping down the local shops. And so my constituents have been saying to me for a long time, we must have a plan to help New Ferry. £10,000 won't be enough to do everything we want to do, but this small, modest amount of money is going to help us plan what the future should look like. So we have some excellent businesses in New Ferry, Edges, the Butchers, Fresh Naturally. We have a brilliant farmers market that people come from miles around to come to. We have to work out how to work with those traders and those organisations to deal with the empty shops that are there, some of the issues of the poor quality of building, and to make sure we've got more and more businesses coming into the town centre. There's a couple of things the public can do to help. Firstly, go to the shops that are there in New Ferry already. Use the shops. The farmers market happens on the third Saturday of every month, and it's a brilliant opportunity to buy direct from farmers in New Ferry and to support those enterprises. That keeps people in and around New Ferry and going to the local area.
New Ferry is looking to the future to turn around a centre in decline into a vibrant, local shopping centre for its locals and visitors alike. It seems like every time we hear about Britain's youth, a negative light is cast. However, 26 Merseyside school pupils have been acknowledged for their hard work by being elected to be junior and young Lord Mayors. Sophie Grundy reports.
Pupils have been involved in a scheme which allows them to get into the shoes of the Lord Mayor.
Welcome everybody. Distinguished guests, young and junior Lord Mayors, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you all to Liverpool's historic town hall for what will be an historic event in the history of the city of Liverpool. It wasn't until 1990s that it was decided to look at the old saying of children should be seen but not heard. In Liverpool, the setting up of the youth councils in the 1990s were followed in 2001 with the first meeting of Liverpool Schools Parliament. For the first time, there was a process by which the children and the young people of this city could have their voices heard.
It was so brilliant when I got it, and I was getting nervous when I was reading the speech.
To make the city more cleaner.
Well, I'm not sure of what month have been allocated yet, but when I find out, there'll be a minimum of 4 events that you go to, and in that you represent the children of Liverpool.
I just think it builds their confidence and it gives them their say in the running of the... I mean, as they've said, that the next thing they're doing in the senior one is making a effort about the bus passes because they've been cancelled.
I'm going to be trying to change the way Liverpool's run.
make a recall for people by basically making a change, if you know what I mean, and giving people a view on stuff.
He feels excited. He feels that he can bring about some of the changes that he really wants, that children with special needs, these are Daniel's words, are seen as special but in a good way, and that more of the racism problems in Liverpool stop, and he wants to do whatever he can to bring that about.
Perhaps we have amongst us the politicians of the future.
Liverpool waved goodbye to Britain's last remaining aircraft carrier yesterday. The HMS Illustrious will be decommissioned next year as part of an ongoing defence cut. The carrier was used during the First Gulf War in Lebanon. As Callum Metcalf reports, the Illustrious made a stunning sight across the River Mersey and attracted large crowds.
The HMS Illustrious, also known as Lusty, is Britain's last remaining aircraft carrier and is due to be decommissioned in less than 2 years. The 22,000-ton ship was docked in Liverpool for 5 days and opened its doors to members of the public at the weekend. Thousands of visitors lined up to board the vessel and were given a tour of the historic ship, being shown the aircraft hangars and the on-deck runway.
The most notable HMS Illustrious was the one in the Second World War that was came under attack outside Malta, and the German Air Force had tried to sink the ship several times, and the ship took sustained damage. Quite a lot of people lost their lives, but the ship didn't sink, and the people of Malta rallied to the defence of the ship. So as a result, there's a big strong affiliation between HMS Illustrious and the people of Malta, and we've just come from Malta, and you'll see up on the ship's funnel that there are 3 trumpets. Those 3 trumpets were distributed to the 3 towns in Malta, and every time the ship returns into Malta, those 3 trumpets are brought together again to the ship, reunited. We have a ceremony giving thanks for the sacrifice that people of Malta made for the defence of the ship. As far as the ship itself goes, we have a decommission date now of December 2014, which brings us up to another 2 years of life. Working together is the way forward. I think every country is having to kind of cut back on its defence expenditure, so the more we can do together obviously makes sense. Well, the ship's 30 years old, and we now have the new Elizabeth class aircraft carriers being built, and hopefully by the time they come up and ready to run, HMS Illustrious, having done its job, can get into a nice easy retirement. Today is about basically projecting the face of the Navy. We have a long history of linking to Liverpool as well, and Liverpool is very much seen as the place to be if you want exposure to Britain and exposure to people who support what we do. And it's a way of opening the doors and saying, here we are, this is us, this is what we do, and this is what we've got to contribute.
I'm a marine engineer, so I fix the engines, and anything that goes wrong, we fix it. Just a bit of a run ashore for the lads, get them off ship, bit of a stand down period. We've been working hard over Christmas period, so go and enjoy themselves. A bit of partying, not too much though.
The people of Liverpool bid farewell to the Illustrious, which left at around 4 o'clock on Monday afternoon.
A row is brewing over a fish and chip shop that has been opened on one of the country's leading tourist attractions. Residents complain that it will damage the Albert Dock here in Liverpool, which has World Heritage status. Sinead Cunningham reports.
The Albert Dock's first fish and chip shop opened its doors last week. Plans for the controversial chippy were criticised by residents who said it would degrade the dock's World Heritage status.
You can see from the shop it's just amazing. The money that they've spent in, it's been everything that's gone inside the shop's been so expensive, and it's like Rolls-Royce equipment on the systems. As you can smell, there's no smells. There isn't any smells at all. I know it took us nearly 4 years up to yesterday to open the shop, and we are excited. It's a great sight to open on the Albert Dock. They've been amazed, fantastic. Even the tourism and the locals now are coming down saying, amazed with the shop.
I don't really have a problem with it. I mean, obviously that's took business off us, but that's life, you know. People seem to like it, so that's the way of the world, really, isn't it? As long as they address the litter problem, I can't really see any problems, to be honest. Obviously it is going to create litter, but there's plenty of bins about and that, so the lads do a sterling job picking it up and that. So
the Heritage Committee for listed building consent approved the plans and have done all they can to satisfy everyone affected.
Hundreds of people have been in Liverpool over the past few days to celebrate the love of jazz. The city's International Jazz Festival took place over 4 days. Phoebe R reports.
Some of the finest names on the jazz scene came together for Liverpool's newest 4-day International Jazz Festival. The event will take place at the city's leading venue for cutting-edge jazz.
A mixture of very innovative, creative music making by some internationally renowned musicians on all sorts of instruments, doing all sorts of different styles of jazz, with fusions coming in from reggae and ska, calypso, in the case of Courtney Pine. Tonight we've just had kind of a rock, progressive rock, electronic music fusion with Roller Trio.
But yeah, I was quite, not apprehensive, but I was like looking forward to it quite a bit before we went home. It was, yeah. But it went really well, so.
It's nice to play to a seating audience as well, because we're used to standing audiences.
The Capstone Theatre came to life as Jazz Trio kicked off, starting the showcase, which will include sounds from an array of high-profile artists and musicians.
And now over to Sophie with the sport.
And in football, Jose Mourinho says the whole world will stop to watch tonight's Champions League match between Real Madrid and Manchester United. The teams will battle it out for the quarter-finals at Old Trafford after drawing 1-0 at the first leg 2 weeks ago. Meanwhile, Manchester City clawed their way to victory last night against Aston Villa after a tense 90 minutes. It was Carlos Tevez who scored the only goal in the nail-biting match. But City's midfielder Jack Rodwell could be out of action for an entire month after a recurrence of a hamstring problem during the game. And now back to Natalie with the weather.
The sun is finally out in Liverpool today, with clear skies and highs of 10 degrees throughout the afternoon. There is a mild wind across the city as usual, which is 7 miles an hour at its strongest. But don't pack away your winter clothes just yet. We're expecting some light rain throughout the night. Thanks for watching. Have a great afternoon from all of us here. Goodbye.